do watch which way you walk once in a while, and be careful, because they're always trying to trap you back into the system, into the matrix, but that can certainly be done. We don't advertise the video, but if you want to get it, it's in our, Heidi can get you one, $10 for the video. When you're done, you return it, get your money back. If you want to study this topic, it's a fascinating field of research. But our founding fathers would never have thought about getting a permit to build a building on their property. Their philosophy was, that's my property. I don't have to get your permission to do anything on my property. I mean, that's just the mentality they had. The Revolutionary War, one of the key ingredients was the Boston Tea Party, which was over a tax on the tea, and I believe it was 1% tax. Something like that. It's nothing. And we've gone nuts. But I think one of the major plans toward a new world order that Satan has is eliminating the belief in a creator. And evolution is the great way to do that. And so early in the 1800s, they came up with a plan of how to control the world. The Illuminati did this back in 1776, even with Adam Weishaupt, and there have been modifications to the plan for several hundred years. And the group members changed, but the group itself has kept a consistent goal of world dominance through control of the currency. Right now, none of you have any money. You have a Federal Reserve note, which is not money. That's an IOU to the government. And silver and gold is real money, and we don't have any or much of that for sure. Long story. But I believe education was, first of all, public education was called for and planned as part of this major plan toward a one-world government. They said, we're going to get a public education system, then we will secularize it, eliminate God, sanitize it of any mention of God, and teach the kids a philosophy that says, your right to breathe, and your right to work, and your right to drive, and your right to get married comes from the government. And once you get this philosophy ingrained in them that the government gives, the government takes away, you know. Everything comes and rises and falls on government. And believe me, we've got that philosophy here, don't we? Our country is saturated with it. So is most of the other world. But that is a major key ingredient in planning toward a one-world government, which was Satan's plan all along. God's plan in the Bible, if you compare what God said in the Bible compared to what's happening, you'll see there are very many differences. They talked about every man having his own vine, his own fig tree, owning your own property. They had a system set up in Israel where if you lost your property because you were, poor management or whatever reason, you got it back every 50 years. Called the Year of Jubilee. Ownership of property is essential. And I think we've lost some of this basic philosophy of what does the Bible say versus what's happening around us. Now, because we're already using Federal Reserve notes and we're already using a Social Security number, the next step is very simple. If you want to continue getting our benefits, you come down and get a little microchip put in your hand or in your forehead, or else you can't buy or sell. We're just a few steps away from that. The chip's available right now. I've got a couple of the chips in my office. You can get the chips right now. That's not hard. Somebody told me a few months ago that 75,000 Americans already have one of the chips. Interesting.
They advertise for people to try it out.
Yeah. Come get a chip. Go to the store, pick up all your groceries, and walk out. It automatically deducts it out of your account by that little chip when you go through the archway, the sensors. It's coming, folks, okay? Our job as Christians is to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves, to walk carefully in this crooked and perverse world that we're living in. And I want you to see, one of the reasons for this great age for the earth propaganda is to draw kids away from believing in the Bible. There's a great video called Let My Children Go that says 75% of all children raised in Christian homes who attend public schools reject the Christian faith by the end of their first year of college. Jeremiah Films put it out. Why on earth would 75% of the kids reject the faith? Well, because if you just sat down and read the Bible, you would come up with the idea that the earth is about 6,000 years old. That's the obvious teaching. And yet the schools are teaching it's millions of years old and we evolved. Well, kids are going to go to church maximum 3, 4, 5 hours a week. They're going to be in school 30 hours a week. You tell me who's going to win. Plus, nearly 100% of the kids go to school and less than 100% go to church. And that's what the humanists have counted on for years. We'll get into lots more on that when we get into what's on my videotape number 5 about how evolution is the root philosophy for communism, socialism, Marxism, and how they've said all along, we're going to infiltrate the school system. John Dewey was one of the leaders of one of the teachers' colleges in Vermont. They turned out teachers with his philosophy of humanism. Those teachers ended up being deans and superintendents of school systems, which trained more teachers. And from 1930 until today, it's been a steady encroachment of getting humanist or communist-minded teachers into our school system. And we're saturated with them. And they're teaching this philosophy that of humanism. There is no God. Government is ultimate authority. I'm in favor of obeying the government. But I've got a higher authority yet. And if there's a conflict, I'm to obey God. All through the Bible you see this principle. They got in trouble because they obeyed the higher authority. They got beaten, stoned, killed, sawn in half. You name it, it happened to them because they had that philosophy. And the problem with Christians is we don't fit into the New World system very well because if you're a good Christian, that'll be your philosophy. I'll obey the government as long as there's no conflict between what God told me to do and what you're telling me to do. Christians make great citizens because their God tells them one of your jobs is to obey your government until there's a conflict. Then you obey me. The king says, bow down and kiss the idol. Sorry, I can't do that. Well, I'm going to throw you in the furnace. Well, okay, then throw me in the furnace. I'm just not allowed to do that. I have a higher authority. Okay, we covered lots on video number 1 about the age of the earth and how it affects people when they lose their faith. And we won't take time. We've got to quit in a few minutes here. But Crawford Toy, a great Southern Baptist Seminary professor, almost married Lottie Moon. Anybody go to Southern Baptist Church here? You've heard of Lottie Moon. Every Christmas they have the Lottie Moon offering. Used to, okay. Crawford was engaged to marry. I don't know if I think he was engaged to marry her. She broke it off because he lived in the late 1800s. Same time she did. It's good to live same time person you're going to marry. But he began to doubt the Bible over that question of how old is the earth. In the late 1800s, a lot of people were teaching the earth is millions of years old. And the Christians didn't really fight that. They accepted it. And they tried to incorporate it into the Bible with the gap theory and the day-age theory, and they just plain compromised. Well, Crawford said, the Bible intends to teach a plain 6-day creation. The Bible is simply in error. And if you start thinking the earth is millions of years old, you're going to have to either justify or allegorize the first 11 chapters of Genesis. Many great preachers today will say, oh, the Bible's a wonderful book, and I believe it. Now, the first few chapters is probably an allegory, but the rest of it's great. And that's what they do. Or they try to get rid of the first 11 chapters by saying, or they try to include evolution by saying there's a gap between verse 1 and verse 2. Or that each day is not really a day, it's millions of years for each day. We'll get into those theories coming up soon, about the gap theory and the day-age theory and how they just simply are not true. But that'll all be covered on probably in the second course on this topic. All right. Quiz questions. What do we got so far, Heidi, for next week? Not much, huh? 2. We need to get a few. Here's another one. What percentage of kids lose their faith going through public school? 75% is the national statistics here. Some other things we talked about. Let's see. Does it take millions of years for flowstone to form?
No.
No, happens very quickly. Let's see, we also talked about what is the percentage of salt in the ocean right now? 3.6%. Right. And Niagara Falls erosion rate. There we go. Well, that'll be enough. We'll have some more bonus questions on there from things we've covered, but that'll be enough for quiz questions. Thank you so much. We'll see you in next meeting.